All right, Cleveland Cavalier faithful, welcome back on in to the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. Very good game last night from our Cleveland Cavaliers at home, debuting the Navy uniforms once again, bringing them all the way back from the throwback jar. 132 to 121 victory over the Philadelphia 76ers that weren't at full strength. We weren't at full strength, but a lot of promising signs. Darius Garland makes his return. I think that was the talk of the town yesterday. And then Donovan Mitchell shows up and steals the show. Absolutely epic performance from Donovan. I think that this is his second best performance in a Cleveland Cavalier uniform pretty comfortably, actually. I think that 71-point performance in the overtime game, I believe that was against the Chicago Bulls, ranks number one, obviously, but 46 points. He does it in 35 minutes. I mean, look at this line from Donovan Mitchell. This is a MVP caliber line. This is a NBA all first team caliber line very comfortably. 46 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, 1 steal, 15 to 21, 71% from the floor, 6 for 11 from 3, making over half his 3-point attempts. And then this is the big one for me out of everything, not losing points at the free throw line. This was the Cavs' best free throw shooting game in a long time. I'm going to have to go back and look at game logs and see when the last time they shot a collective 16 of 17, 94% from the free throw line. I can almost guarantee it's been a long time since they've shot above 90% from the free throw line. But an overall very good game. A very much needed win, 132 to 121. That first quarter looked like one of the best offensive quarters that the team has had all season through 8 games. And then they followed up with a 37-point third quarter as well. A little bit of back and forth here throughout the game. The Cavs were always, comfortably in control, but they still have some of these moments and some of these issues where, yes, Darius Garland's getting brought back into the fold. Strus is, out, obviously still. He contributes a lot to what we want to do on the offensive side of the ball. Merrill has been in and out of the lineup. Jarrett Allen in and out of the lineup with the injury as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces for this Cleveland Cavaliers team. Lonzo being an addition, Larry Nance being an addition, Thomas Bryant trying to find his footing in the rotation as well. So it's expected. There are still some glaring things with this team where I'm like, they go on, the other team goes on an 8-10-0 run. We have our own Cavalanches and we have our own offensive flurries as well. But there's just some of these stretches throughout the game where it seems like not everyone is on the same page. I think Kenny is trying to still figure out this offense and, the different wrinkles that he wants to look at. But if Donovan Mitchell is this efficient, if Donovan Mitchell prioritizes efficiency and, having 8 assists and passing the basketball, like, it's amazing to me that, Garland returns. He comes back as the primary ball handler. Lonzo Ball is your primary ball handler off the bench for a lot of the game as well. But Donovan Mitchell has his best facilitating performance, with Darius Garland back. So that just shows you how much DG really means to the offensive structure of this team, and just an overall amazing performance from the guys. Mobley puts up 23 points. Jarrett Allen has a really efficient game, 24 and 10, and 3 steals, 3 blocks. Really good Jarrett Allen performance. Like, this is the Jarrett Allen performance where you sit down and look and you go, this is why he's on, the contract he's on is such a steal, and Kobe Altman grabbed him for basically nothing. And this is the type of game where Jarrett Allen isn't really going to be spoken about, but he really contributes to a lot of the victory. He remains involved. He remains efficient, takes the second most amount of field goals, tied with Mobley, right behind Donovan. Jacks up 2 3-pointers that is kind of funny, and it's kind of all, laugh and have fun at the end of the day, but not really what you want to see from him. But besides that, very good night, plus 24 in the plus minus category. Mobley, a lot of the same, 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. You would like to see his rebound numbers be more than that, go up. I think 15 rebounds from Allen and Mobley is still on the shorter side of the ledger against a team that doesn't have a Joel Embiid. That, we've seen a lot of these games where these backups that are playing the center position for the other team are just lesser known starters. Allen Mobley still have struggled at times. I really haven't been thrilled with Evan Mobley's offensive progression through these first handful of games for the Cavaliers. If you want to talk a little bit of something that I'm disappointed after a big loss, I think Evan Mobley's bag hasn't improved. And guys, granted, it's still early. I totally understand that. There's a lot of basketball to be played, but we are 8 games in. I don't really see an offensive leap from Mobley besides his usage going up and how we're using him and trying to run the offense through him, which is part of it. But he has a hard time moving guys in the paint. His three-pointer looks similar to last year. I'd have to look at the splits. I'd have to look at the percentages. He was 3 of 5 last night, so that's a bright spot that I think everybody could get behind. But there's so many instances in these first couple of games where he's down low, he's in the paint, he's literally 2 feet from the basket, and he either passes out, which sometimes that's warranted, sometimes that's fine, or he dribbles away from the hoop. And I'm like, dude, or he's matched up, he has a mismatch on the perimeter and he's taking a shot. He's not driving to the hole. He's got someone who's smaller, a lot shorter of a defender on him or just smaller in weight, and he's not going to the rim. So there's something to monitor there. Garland comes back. He plays 26 minutes, which is not surprising, but I thought maybe a little bit more than we'd see from him with it being his first run of the season. Nothing spectacular, but you could just tell the impact, the gravity. Sometimes the thought of someone being out there is even more impactful than what they do on the court, and I think that was how you described Darius Garland last night. 8 points, 4 assists, still contributing. 2 of 7 from 3. Shot wasn't falling. It wasn't there, but he was at least willing to take it. And sometimes that extra guy that the defense goes, oh, now we have to count for Darius Garland, makes all the world of difference. And he still puts up a positive in the plus-minus category. All good and well. I think one of the most surprising or the most interesting highlights of this early season for the Cleveland Cavaliers is Jalen Tyson. 29 minutes, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, all over the stat sheet. I personally think this guy's going to be really good. I thought coming into the season that if Jalen Tyson could be an individual who is a younger, cheaper, marginally better Isaac Okoro, that's a huge win. I already think his offense in year 2 is better than any offense we've seen from Isaac Okoro, truthfully. And if that's the case, that's going to be a huge upgrade, and that's going to be a huge positive in the postseason. That's where everything comes down to. Can he play in the postseason? Can he, maintain his composure? I think he's a little hectic on the defensive side of the ball, which is not always bad. He over pursues a lot. He's a little bit handsy. I think he needs to move his feet and use his body a little bit more on that defensive side of the basketball court. But he has that extra gear and he has that level of tenacity where he has the most hustle on the court a lot of times. He has the most drive to go get rebounds and, make sure plays aren't finished until they're finished. He does have some defensive prowess where you see him rise up and block shots and do all these different things. He just has that it factor where I'm watching the game and he really stands out when I'm watching the Cavaliers play. You saw it a lot last night. I think he's going to be a huge asset for the Cavaliers moving forward. I can't wait to see what he does the rest of the season as far as progressing and growing. And he's still going to have an opportunity here. Max Strus is not projected to return anytime in the near future. Merrill's already been banged up. We know Darius is just coming back from that toe injury. So there's still going to be minutes in this rotation for Jalen Tyson. I think Kenny has to continue to keep him in the fold and give him those starter level minutes. 29 minutes last night from a second-year player that wasn't a lottery pick. When's the last time you could really say that there has been a guy on this Cavaliers team that has had this level of impact so early on in his career that wasn't a highly touted prospect? And like I just said, the injuries play a big factor into it. He's getting playing time because other people are out. Is he going to get 29 minutes in a playoff series with everyone healthy? Knock on wood, no. But I could still see him have an impact and be a 14, 15-minute a night guy off the bench. And I don't want to put people in boxes and sequester him, but he reminds me of Josh Hart. He's like a Josh Hart level player that is annoying, that can hit threes, that's physical, that plays a little bit larger than what he's listed at as far as, his height metric. A lot of different stuff like that. So I've been really impressed with Jalen Tyson so far. I honestly think he's already kind of lapped Dean Wade in the rotation. My preseason and early season prediction was that Dean Wade was going to be the guy on the outside looking in as far as how this rotation is built. And that was a lot of it, stemming through the Malik Beasley rumors that we were going to acquire him. I think even more now than what we've seen. I think he's on the outside looking in. I know that he got hurt last night, poked in the eye. So that's why, we didn't really see a lot of Dean Wade. And I'm sure that's why Jalen Tyson plays more minutes than Kenny would have anticipated. But if you look through this box score and this minutes distribution, it's something that we've talked about for years with this Cleveland Cavaliers team, going back to the JB Bickerstaff days. And hey, how are you going to condense the lineup? And what's the rotation going to look like when we're playing a good team or we're in a really big game on national TV or, when headed into the playoffs? That is really the question that this team has to figure out moving forward. And this bench, it's dispersed. I think about how you would project it to be dispersed. Craig Porter Jr., maybe the one person that could have been questionable. How many minutes is he going to get? But he gets 18 minutes last night. Merrill, 27 minutes coming back from that hip injury, being steady as always. 14 points, 4 or 5 from 3. That's really all you can ask for him. He doesn't really do a whole lot else for you. He logs 0 rebounds and 0 assists and nothing on the defensive end. He didn't look great defensively in the first half. I thought Maxey was kind of having his way with him, but that's going to happen with a guy like Sam Merrill. He's a role player. He's a bench sharpshooter. He's not going to go out there and give you elite defense all the time. He's not going to go out there and be a playmaker or a creator, put up triple-double level numbers, obviously. Lonzo, on the other side, they kind of counteract each other. The Lonzo-Merrill minutes are really interesting because people are going to have a hard time with the Lonzo experiment, so to say, quote unquote, because we're so used to Jerome last year being a 3-point sharpshooter, being someone who could penetrate in the lane, being someone who could create on the offensive side of the ball if a Darius Garland is hurt or if a Donovan Mitchell isn't playing or load management, whatever it may be. Lonzo isn't that guy. And there's nothing wrong with that inherently. I know a lot of people had gripes with, why do we pay Merrill over Jerome? And Altman made a mistake there. I totally hear that and understand it, but I think the dynamic between Lonzo and Merrill last night is fine, and it's what you're looking for. They both play, Lonzo plays 23 minutes. Merrill plays 27 minutes. Merrill scores 14. Lonzo doesn't score at all, but Lonzo gives you that level of playmaking that other people aren't going to give you. 8 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. 8 assists and 1 turnover. That is, for a backup point guard, that is all you're asking for. You're asking for the level of offense to stay the same and the philosophical approach to the game to stay the same for Kenny the whole game, all 4 quarters from wire to wire. Whether Garland's in there or whether Lonzo's in there or whether Craig Porter Jr. is running the helm, you need this level of consistency because what has been the Cleveland Cavaliers' biggest downfall when the chips are on the table? The offensive ingenuity dries up. The ball movement dries up. We go to ISO ball. We go to Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, hero ball. Evan Mobley has 19 points in the first half and everybody's moving the ball, great. And then the second half rolls around. The game tightens up. The whistles dry up. And the whole game plan changes. And then Evan Mobley doesn't touch the ball in the third and the fourth quarter. How many times have we seen this as Cavalier fans? That is really the equation and the problem they're solving for and that they're trying to solve for. I truly do believe. From a casual viewer, from someone who, covers the team as a hobby, that's where I think Kenny Atkinson is coming from. He's not stupid, guys. He's a good head coach. He's an offensive driven head coach. He was on the bench for some of the best offensive seasons in the history of the league and the philosophy of the Golden State Warriors. He understands what winning basketball looks like. If you've been a fan of this team for years, the Cleveland Cavaliers, for the last 15 years, the best teams that go to the NBA Finals, us included, repeatedly, and most importantly, our biggest rival throughout that stretch, the Golden State Warriors, have a bunch of guys that pass the basketball. They play team defense. They box out and rebound. They don't waste points at the free throw line. And they have a bunch of different guys that if they're standing there wide open, can hit a 3-pointer on you. And you're literally punching air watching as an observer because you're like, there's no way Draymond Green should be 5 of 5 from 3. But if he's standing there wide open, He's knocking it down. And there's some nights where shots don't fall. That's the reality of the situation. That's the logistics of the NBA. How many times are you watching the NBA finals that all these different times the Cavs and the Warriors matched up and you're like, all right, we just got it within 6 points. We were just down 12. Now it's 5-6 point game. Momentum's on our side. And then Andre Iguodala back-to-back possessions hitting the three. And you're like, what the hell is going on? This is what this Cavaliers team needs to be and needs to strive for. Kenny's the guy to do so. You have guys off the bench that could be those level of players. Like imagine Larry Nance hitting a three, a transition dagger three, momentum swing, in a big moment. And you're the other team. You're a fan of the other team. You're like, what that? You're like, Larry Nance just did that? This is crazy. That's the level that this team needs to aspire to be, in my opinion. Thomas Bryant's the same way. That's why you bring in a guy like that, in the off season and you acquire him. We've seen what he could do in these playoffs the last couple of seasons. He's an annoying, pesky backup player that can hold his own. And honestly, at some points, and especially last postseason, you could say he has a chance to create for himself. That's tough to do in the NBA, especially as a backup, especially as someone who doesn't get regular minutes. But interesting stuff all around. Let's look into the standings for the Eastern Conference, because something that you have to look at, when you don't start the season 15-0 like we did last year. So Cavs currently jumbled up in that 4th seed at 5-3. The surprise of the regular season so far is the Chicago Bulls, the Josh Giddey-led Chicago Bulls at 6-1 of the Eastern Conference. I think that's an outlier. I don't see that being replicated all season long from the Chicago Bulls. I see the Chicago Bulls finishing at like a 500 clip at the best. You always have teams that start off hot in the beginning of the year and then they kind of fizzle out, and it's not success that you could replicate on a night in and night out basis. That's no disrespect to them. Josh Giddey's playing MVP level basketball, and that's enough to get you, a pretty good winning percentage out of the gates. The rest of the East so far, pretty much where you expected it. Washington, terrible. Indiana, not going to be able to overcome the injuries and losing some key pieces from last year. Brooklyn, criminally bad, just a bunch of guys trying to get their shots off, not really playing team basketball. That's fine. Charlotte, Orlando off to a rocky start here. I expect them to play better than this through the remainder of the season. I expect them to be well into the actual seeding. If we're being honest with ourselves, they could, maybe they could underperform expectations. It's obviously possible, but I don't expect them to even be in a playoff situation. I expect them to at least be the 6th seed. Philadelphia, that's a good win from the Cavs last night. I think a lot of people are going to cherry pick and, the injuries and this and that. And, that's fine. Every team has injuries. Embiid on the shelf, McCain on the shelf, or whatever his name is. A lot of key contributors from that 76ers team not playing last night, but same with us. Same with the Cavs. We're not going to be at full strength and like full rotational minutes and integration until January, I would say. I don't even know what the timetable for Strus's injury is, if there even is one. So there's a lot of question marks in the NBA regular season as always. But I expect this top 6 to be largely the same come the All-Star break and into the playoffs. Cavs, Knicks, in no particular order. Cavs, Knicks. I think the Pistons will be a top 6 seed, actually. I think they're going to be trying really hard, and JB is a regular season merchant, and they'll avoid the play-in, and they'll be in a regular series come playoff time, my opinion. Milwaukee. Besides that, it's kind of a crapshoot. Maybe the Bulls will hang around, but 41-41, like B Skrill says, that, what does that give you? That might give you the 7th seed. If you're really looking at it, let's look at last year. Yeah, Orlando was 41-41. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're the 7th seed. So don't get me wrong. The Bulls are probably going to make the postseason. The postseason and the playoffs are two different things. If you're in the play-in tournament, to me, that's the postseason. You haven't made the playoffs yet. That's a semantical gripe for me, but everybody makes the postseason. If you make the play-in, there's only 5 teams that don't make it. Like, it's a soft league. We all know this. The NBA regular season's a joke, and a lot of the playoffs is a joke as well. But I digress. They were 39-43 last year. They should improve upon that, in my opinion. But as far as the rest of this year, I think it's a lot of question marks. Are the Celtics going to be here all season long? Miami is a good organization, but who knows how they're going to play. Toronto, I don't think is a very good team, even though they are 4-4 through 8 games, but we're just going to have to see how everything plays out. It's still very early in the NBA season. The Cavs get a must-earn win. Still those idiots calling to criticize them. It's the regular season, Beast Girls. We know the drill here. And I said this every year. This year might be different because I try to avoid the double standards, and I've seen a lot of discourse online, on YouTube, on X, wherever you go for your Cleveland Cavaliers news that you digest or commentary analysis, all those different things. I think a double standard is actually warranted with this team, and hear me out before the uprising and the outcry really starts. So this team could have 70 regular season wins. They obviously aren't going to, it's not going to be the reality. I'm just saying, if they go 70-12, it really is not going to matter to me. I'm going to be excited. I'm going to have fun watching them. I'm going to be ecstatic, just like how I was last regular season. I could separate my thoughts from the regular season and the playoffs very simply as an observer who's been doing this for what I would consider a pretty long time and covering the team night in and night out for 6 seasons. I think I could say that. But if they look bad in the regular season, I still think that's fair criticism. I still think you're able to say, all right, we should be a premier team in the East. We have the defensive player of the year. We have Donovan Mitchell. We have Kenny Atkinson. We have all these things. We have multiple all-stars. We're the highest paid team in the league. That's criticism enough. Like, hey, you have the number 1 payroll in the league. There should be some expectations, through the injuries and through all the circumstances that you should be able to win some basketball games. But if you continue to see some of the prevailing issues that this team has struggled with the past couple of postseasons, I think it's fair to call that out. Even if they have an elite regular season, you could still say, oh, it doesn't matter until the playoffs. That's true. But if they're playing bad in the regular season, you have these wisecracks online. Oh, now people care about the regular season. No, I don't. I'm just telling you, I'm not going to be quiet and say, oh yeah, Evan Mobley, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think a lot of people online lie right to your face, and a lot of people aren't confrontational. That's fine. I don't call every single person out on their lie. No one's going to call me out if I have a misstatement or if I lie or anything like that, even if they think I'm doing it on accident or if they think I'm doing it on purpose. But, you see people every year. What was it this year? I see one media day photo of Evan Mobley. Oh, it looks like he put on 15 pounds. Guys, Evan Mobley did not put on 15 pounds in the offseason. I'm so sorry. He just didn't. If you look at his weight at USC and you look at the weight they clocked him in this year, at media day or whenever they do it, he's gained 5 pounds since USC. He's been in the league. What is this? His 4th year, his 5th season. He's not, he's going to be moving people around. He doesn't move people around in the paint. His offensive bag looks very stale. He's not strong with the basketball. There's a lot of improvements Evan Mobley could still make. I'm not trying to rag on the guy. He's a premier player in the league on the defensive side of the ball. He's still going to have good averages. I appreciate him being more aggressive, but if you have to call something out through 8 games, he doesn't look like he's taken an offensive leap at all. What has he done this offseason? Besides some of the 3-point shooting, that's what I'll give him. But my biggest concern with him is that he was never going to pick a lane out of college. Are you going to be a Giannis bruiser down low, the run and dunk memes, but you're still a dominant player and you move people out of the way? Or are you going to be a Kevin Garnett style player where that's a exceedingly rare individual in the league that, you're going to take corner jumpers and you're going to be a strategist, in the middle of the court? Doesn't really exist. Or are you going to get your 3-point shooting up, get your dribbles and handles at a really, really high level, and then you're going to, try to be in that Kevin Durant mold, which, once again, good luck. I'm not saying these are easy things. These are all once in a generation type players that you're trying to emulate and you're trying to project Evan Mobley's career forward to, but we've done it as a fan base. He was a lottery pick. You expect some of these things out of the guy. You don't expect him to be KD. If he put on 25, 30 pounds, he could be Giannis. I don't see why he couldn't be. He's already like a Giannis level defender in my mind. I think when Giannis is trying, Giannis and him are probably on the same level. And obviously Jared Allen helps in a lot of the equations, but there's a lot of things. There's a lot of factors going on here. I think it's fair to criticize the regular season and still hold a belief that it doesn't really matter until the postseason. Even though that's contradictory and that's a double standard, I'll fully concede all that. I think it's a double standard that's valid, in my opinion. One guy called ESPN Cleveland radio station talking about Donovan Mitchell was holding the Cavs back. He was efficient last night. The Donovan Mitchell conversation is very interesting because he's a very great basketball player. He's on the fringe of an elite basketball player. You can't really deny that. However, let me play devil's advocate really quickly. It's getting to the point in his career where he's getting into that category of if he's a number one guy that could get the job done. And I know that we don't want to put people in these boxes and box them in and do all these different things where we project people's careers and things of that nature, but he really hasn't done anything in the playoffs. He hasn't led teams to sustained playoff success where we get past the second round. He hasn't gotten past the second round once in his career. What is this, year 8, year 9? So the conversations are creeping in for Donovan Mitchell, if you like them or not. And, you could have unlucky and unforetold things happen in your career where all your teammates are hurt, or you're always injured at the end of the year, or nobody steps up when you need them to. You could be doing everything right, making the correct passes, making the correct reads, playing hard on defense. And if he has 15 assist-worthy passes and Dean Wade can't make the shot, can you really blame him for all that? I'm not blaming him for all that, but I'm just saying it gets to a point where people start asking questions about people's careers. I think it's totally fair to get to that point with Donovan Mitchell if you're an outsider looking in. We do it all the time with people. It's the Joel Embiid conversation. What has Joel Embiid really done? MVP? I mean, yeah, sure, big accomplishment, great, but a lot of people get into that fraudulent narrative of, this guy's a regular season dude and he doesn't really project into the playoffs. He's not a player with a play style that projects postseason success. And I think if you're someone on the outside looking in that wants to label Donovan Mitchell that, I have to hear your argument out. I love Donovan Mitchell. I was on board with the trade from day one because Cleveland front offices and Cleveland teams don't take big swings like that. So I actually had, on a principled level, I had respect for Kobe Altman for making that trade. Did we give up a lot of assets? Sure. Have we made it past the second round with him? No. But he's one of the better guards in the league. He's a top probably 10 player in the league right now, comfortably through 8 games of the season. So there's a lot of discourse surrounding Donovan Mitchell. I want to see what the Cavs look like while everyone is in this lineup. This team could be really good and dangerous when fully healthy. I totally agree with you. But will we see changes in the regular season that can translate to the playoffs? I don't even know if A, that's possible because the playoffs is such a different level of basketball than the regular season, or B, will we even see it at all? So yeah, obviously we want to see everyone healthy. This team isn't going to be, which is fine to me. If I'm strategizing and if I'm in the front office or if I'm in these strategy meetings with the team, it's such a, you could see people being pessimists about it. We're not going to be into the full groove of things. So after the All-Star break, good. Who cares? That's preferable to me. Get everybody healthy. Make sure everyone is maintained throughout the whole year. Make sure Darius Garland doesn't have any setbacks or regressions. Make sure Jared Allen, gets healthy as he can with the finger injury. Make sure Sam doesn't take any steps in the wrong direction. Now we have Dean Wade with a poked eye. We're going to have to monitor the situation. Get Strus back and keep everyone else healthy. And then after the All-Star break, you could really lock in and say, hey, these are the top 9 guys we're throwing at you. That's what this team has to figure out. Who are going to be your playoff rotation? Push comes to shove. Game 7 against a team that's really good. Go out there and win a basketball game for us. Garland, I didn't even mention DeAndre Hunter out last night with an illness. He's another guy. Keep him healthy with some of these early knee injuries and stuff like that. But what's the top 9 guys that you're going to throw at people when the chips are down? Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, Max Strus, Sam Merrill. You're already up to 7 right there, guys. Larry Nance would give you 8. who's your ninth guy? Is Jalen Tyson give you like put it in as the ninth guy? Do you feel like you could be comfortable and have, a Thomas Bryant as your 10th player? Lonzo in there as well. Maybe there's a lot of mouths to feed here. There's a lot of people to get through, where at some point you're going to have to maybe mix in and have different combinations. And Jalen Tyson looks good, and I'm pretty optimistic about his outlook. Maybe he's not even in the playoff rotation. It would suck. I think it would be good to get him some playoff experience, because that's something he's missing as a younger player. But I just went through 9 guys and I had him at the 9th guy. I forgot Lonzo. So there's a lot of moving factors here. And that's why it's like, I feel like their thought process with moving on from Jerome, and this doesn't really sound like it makes sense, but it's easier to replace a Jerome level player. You could have a bunch of contributors add up to the sum of the parts that Jerome gave you in the regular season last year. And he wasn't very good in the playoffs last year, mind you. He was terrible in the second round. He was horrible, actually. So I don't blame them for moving on from him. I actually preferred it. I actually preferred the move. Get rid of anybody who is not going to rise to the occasion of the playoffs. I'm not really too interested in that, to be honest. It's time for Donovan to get past second round in the final. I think it's time. The East is wide open. If not now, when? Boston, very depleted. Can't say it's a rebuild because the Tatum injury, if he was healthy, they would be a top 3 seed in the East this year, probably very comfortably. So it's not really a rebuild, but they're in the second apron dilemma. Like, that's what you have to call it. They're in the second apron dilemma. Newsflash, who's the next team that's going to be in the into the second apron dilemma? It's going to be us. Truth hurts. If this season doesn't go like amazingly swimmingly, even if it does, even if we do make it to the Eastern Conference Finals or the finals or wherever, you can't maintain this payroll for much longer. You just can't. You run out of options. And Cavs fans are going to be very startled, especially if we're like only a couple of games above 500 right around the trade deadline or something like that. We're not going to replicate the same success we had last year. So I think the anxiety is going to be a little bit higher for Cavs fans this year, which it shouldn't be. Something we've talked about all day here in this last 30 plus minutes. But, if we're the 4th or 5th seed come the trade deadline, people, how Twitter gets, YouTube gets, oh, well, the Cavs need to do this, make this move. There's really no moves you can make, guys. The second apron is just choking you. It is. You can't aggregate salaries and trades. You have to find a trade partner that is the same salary or less than you, and you have to find a team that can make the trade and that will agree to the trade. People go, oh, we need to trade Dean Wade for. Good luck. What's Dean Wade making this year? Your options are very limited. He's still on that $6 million year. So his cap hit is $6.6 million. So if you want to move Dean Wade, we got to do this to be a contender and this and that and bring in one more marginal piece. You got to find someone who's willing to trade someone on their roster that has a cap hit of $6.6 million to us and wants to take Dean Wade. You know how hard that gets? You know how hard it gets when you're not able to maneuver with draft picks and you're not able to combine salaries in the NBA. You can't even make trades. That's why you saw Boston do what they did in this offseason, and they had to basically trade higher value players away for lesser value players and just be like, oh, we hope to make it work. We hope the coaching staff and the scouting, the development team, and we could compensate for that. That's why you see their roster get dismantled in the course of a couple weeks in the summer. The Cavs are next up for that. They are. You can't keep everybody around. DG, Mobley, and Mitchell are making like $150 million. And Evan Mobley's Defensive Player of the Year kicker bonus, $11 million more per year or $8 million more per year to the salary cap. It was cool he won the award. It actually, financially, it actually sucked for us. If you want to look at it really objectively, it did. And you got people that are, coming up like I said, Wade, this is his last year of his contract, is it not? Yep. So, there's some people that are going to naturally fall off the board, but you only got Nance for 1 year. You only got Bryant for 1 year. I believe Lonzo is a 1-year outfit. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, we were lucky to get Lonzo for a core. Absolutely, Beast Girls, 100%. And I think that's looking like a good trade for both teams. I don't think Okoro is very, very good. I don't know if Lonzo is very good either, but I feel like he could be what is going to be good for this team in the playoffs? And once again, another question of the day is, with him, you have to ask the question, does he have a lot of playoff experience in high leverage situations? That's it. I mean, he has a handful of games under his belt, I believe, but he hasn't played in a long time. He hasn't played in 2 years. So he's going to be bumpy and up and down throughout the whole regular season. But nonetheless, I think this was a little bit of a venting session for me. I appreciate you guys hanging out and being here, but a good win nonetheless. I'm seeing positives and I'm seeing some opportunities for this Cavaliers team through 8 games, which is totally fine for me right now. They're right where I think they should be, and that's fine. With all the injuries and with the expectations, being a little bit muddled down, I feel like they were playing hyped up ball all year last year. Can we continue the 15-game winning streak? Can we continue, dominating guys night in and night out? It's time for them to figure out. It's time for the Cavs to prioritize figuring out who they are when their backs are up against the wall over them winning 10 games in a row. It did nothing for you last year. Last year was a great case study. 3 different times you go on double-digit winning streaks and you roll into the second round in the playoffs after you beat a play-in team, which was one of the worst playoff teams in the modern history, the Miami Heat. They tricked us again and said, good, you did your job, you swept them. But this was a play-in team that was the 10th seed. Wasn't even making the playoffs 10 years ago before the play-in was introduced. And then the Pacers, more physical, smarter, stronger, rebound the basketball, play with the momentum. Atkinson low-key gets out-coached by Rick Carlisle. No disrespect to Kenny, but a good head coach in Rick Carlisle across the way. Coach is better than you. They show more depth. It's time for the Cavs to take that Indiana Pacers mold and run with it. Get to the finals. Get yourself a deep finals series where you have a chance to win the whole thing. That should be your goal. And I think it's something that they're prioritizing. And I appreciate that. And I respect that so far through 8 games. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here with me. Appreciate everyone who's tuned in. Hit that like button. Comment down below. What did I miss? And we'll be back with more live streams in the future. Appreciate you being the pulse of it all. Peace.